Part 24. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 234. I don't know if there is anything else we need to help you. Xuanhuan, an old crown champion, looked at Wei Suo apologetically and asked. Weso, who blinked slightly, nodded and said, I still have one last method to cure my companion. I wonder if you can provide us with a quiet room and take us out of this stupefaction by the way. Hi. I can pay for some spirit stones. We still have a few empty quiet rooms on this ship. Providing a quiet room is just a matter of hand. Outside this sky dome, it is normal for the monks to support each other. Xiantai said to pay the spirit stone, that is, it's too much to see. Huaiyang said, it's just that we still have to walk through this stingy sea for a few days to collect some materials before returning to Haixian City. I wonder if the two can afford it? If we left on our own, even if we knew the direction, it would be easy to get lost. Wei Suo smiled bitterly and said, I can only wait if I can't wait. In this case, the two can come on board and rescue your companions as soon as possible. Huaiyang made a gesture of invitation. Thank you. Wei Suo carried the flying escape magic weapon and landed on the deck. He found the monks around him, looking at his willow-shaped flying escape magic weapon. The look in his eyes was very envious. You can treat your companions in this quiet room. If there is anything else we can help, come out and find me. Huaiyang introduced Wei Suo and Jiya to a quiet room on the ship, which was very interesting. After saying such a sentence, he left and took the door and went out. Wei Suo, do you really have a cure for her? Jiya made suffocating face, with an indifferent coldness. You still need to decide on this matter. Wei Suo nodded somewhat. I know a method that can make her fall into a state of suspended animation, which can last up to several years. But this method, only 5% chance of success. 50% chance of success. A light appeared in Jiya's eyes. What kind of method is it? Last time, you asked Jiya to give me 3 pieces of Xianming ice lotus. I used 2 pieces, and I still have 1 piece left. Introduced into her body, the Xianming Binghan's medicinal power should be enough to freeze all the meridians in her body. Then I cast a true elemental spell every day to keep her in a state of false death, but not alive. Will be cut off. Xianming ice lotus plus a 5-level ice monster beast inside. Jiya's body shivered slightly. Even if she can maintain her physical soul undefeated, but Xianming ice lotus's Yinming Qi is deeply penetrated into the meridian. How can he be cured afterwards? I saw Wei Suo frowned, seeming to ponder a little, and then said, this kind of yin and qi, it can be solved with Zhuyang Dan, which is made of Huanyang Hua and Yangzi bird demon. Ancient Zhuyang pill? Do you know the pill? Jiya looked at Wei Suo incredulously. Wei Suo nodded, saying nothing, just looking at Jiya. Having a 50% chance is better than no chance at all. Jiya silently placed Han Weiwei on the bed in front, swearing in an extremely cold tone, if it fails, I will definitely be in this life. Let Dongjao Resort pay the blood debts. Wei Suo didn't say much, just took a demon corpse covered with ice edges from Nabeo's sack, which was the corpse of the human-faced ice spider. After cutting the head of this monster, and taking out a blue and white monster pill, Wei Suo took the remaining piece of Xianming ice lotus on the horse. Wei Suo's hands trembling slightly after finishing all this. Wei Suo had no relatives and friends since he was a child, so he had never experienced any scene of life and death. Faced with this kind of scene, even when facing the Jindan monks, we can talk and laugh about Wei Suo, but on the contrary, they are much more vulnerable than the ordinary monks. I started after taking a few deep breaths. Wei Suo was ruthless, and a real Yuan wrapped up the Xianming ice lotus and the human face ice spider's demon. With a stream of water like purple real elements rippling above these two things, a stream of blue-black aura and bluish-white aura also emanated from these two things. Wei Suo's move is not refining, but the two elements are separated with the true Yuan, and the speed is hundreds of times faster than refining to absorb the aura. It's so cold. A moment later, Huang standing on the bow and a white-faced monk dressed as a sergeant in the blue shirt, Zhou Tianjing, turned their heads toward the cabin, where Wei Suo and Ji Ya were standing. Looking around the room. Hua Lao, do you really think it's safe to keep these two monks on our ship? After a look of surprise appeared in the eyes, the white-faced monk dressed in a green shirt monk looked at Hua Yang with some worry, and said softly. What do you think of the woman's appearance? Hua Yang didn't answer his question, but instead asked such a question. The white-faced monk was slightly puzzled, but replied, the country is the most outstanding female cultivator I have ever seen. And if I am not mistaken, this woman is still a gifted spiritual root monk. Hua Yang glanced at the white-faced monk deeply and said, this kind of talent, a monk who can be with her, will definitely not be ordinary. The monks themselves. And they are coming from the sky of the mainland of the Xianxian continent, and it is even less likely to be a general monk. Although we have many people, my practice is higher than that of the male cultivator, but it is not necessarily they have the certainty to deal with them. Since they are trapped in this stingy sea, they must rely on us to get rid of it. Even the extremely evil character cannot deal with us before leaving the stingy sea, so instead of offending them, it's better to make friends with them, but also let them owe us a favor. Hua Lao said very much. The white-faced monk's face suddenly became solemn. At least we can escape our lives from the collapsed teleportation circle. We have no such means at all. At this time, in the quiet room, it was the most tense moment. I saw that the piece of Xianming ice lotus and the blue-white human face ice spider demon have all been melted away, wrapped in Wei Yuan by Wei Suo, fused together, and became a group of dark blue liquid medicine. Must hold on to me. Wei Suo, who saw sweat on his forehead, gritted his teeth, and this mass of liquid medicine was melted into a large mass of purple real elements, and then Ma Hanwei was wrapped in it. Outside Han Weiwei's body, a white frost suddenly appeared. All the medicinal liquids and Zhenyuan, all at an amazing speed, instantly penetrated into her body. With the last trace of Zhenyuan and the liquid medicine infiltrating into her body, Han Weiwei's face showed an ice-like luster, while Wei Suo was somewhat collapsed, sweating and swallowing 3 pills back to Zhendan. Ji Ya looked at Wei Suo, a woman in King Guaqingqinj, but her lips were trembling and she couldn't say anything for a while. Now she can't stand it. Wei Suo looked at Han Weiwei, who had no anger on the bed, and even stopped her heartbeat and breathing. She smiled helplessly. Now the medicine has just frozen her body. Qi and blood can only be cast for the first time after 2 hours. The blood and the true element in her body are completely frozen. After the first cast, I can know whether it is successful. Thank you. Ji Ya looked at Han Weiwei silently for a moment, and suddenly said so to Wei Suo. Where are the brothers and sisters of the Ye family? Wei Suo asked. No such nonsense. Because Li Xiahua was there along the way, Wei Suo didn't dare to ask these questions at all, for fear of being heard by Li Xiahua instead. When Han Weiwei caught the man's erysipelas, I knew there must have been a big move in Danjiao Resort, so I asked a monk in my jade pavilion to take them away first. No surprise, they should have been there. Get out of town. Since you are aware of it, why didn't you run with her at first? Wei Suo asked. Li Xiahua's accomplishments on Dandao are far above me, and he seems to have obtained a book of erysipelas and poison from the ancient ancestors. Ji Ya said, if it were not for me to stay in the treasure pavilion, study him daily for Wei Wei, it is impossible for me to speculate on the solution to the life-sustaining drug. Wei Suo smiled bitterly again. That Li Xiahua seemed to be very likely to become the second Jindan monk in Danjiao Resort. Jindan period. Wei Suo repeated these 3 words in his heart again, like a flash of lightning in his eyes. Time passed by 1 minute and 1 second, and the ship was moving silently in the Sea of Sting. Who? Suddenly, the burly monk standing on the bow of the ship was almost naked, only wearing a few pieces of bronze nails, and made a loud inquiry. 100 feet ahead, a greenish-green light appeared, approaching towards the ship quickly. Who are you? With a sneer like a rhetorical question, a young monk wearing a gorgeous green robe gradually emerged from the white mist in front. The monk was only about 20 years old. His face was cold and arrogant. On his green robe with many black spots like strange runes, a mysterious green cold flame was burning. He stood on top of a purple light, which was a purple-black baby-like appearance, but there were two small wings of flying magic weapon under his ribs, which could only stand him alone. Purple Demon. Huai Yang, who quickly flew out of the cabin, saw this strange flying talisman at a glance, and his face suddenly changed greatly. And the purple baby flying under the young man's feet escaped the magic weapon. Hearing his whisper, his black eyes with no white eyes blinked, like living creatures. Is it a corpse sect? After his face changed, Huai Yang dare to be indifferent, and replied aloud, "We are the people of the Chinese family in the seafaring city." Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziwei. Chapter 235. Today is going to be back to normal. 3 changes, everyone's red ticket. Asterisk. Is the Chinese family in the seafaring city? The green-robed young monk's eyes rolled back and smiled indifferently, said, "Below is Chiziu, a disciple of Yin." It turned out to be the disciple of Elder Yin. As soon as all the monks on the boat heard the young monk in green robe, his eyes were suddenly dire. I saw Huai Yang then asked, "Li Daiyu appeared in front of our ship, but there are what's the matter?" Chiziu, who was surrounded by the strange green flame on the green robe, was very chuckled and said, "It's not a big deal, I'm just tracking my escaped concubine." Tracking a concubine running away. Not bad. Chiziu nodded and glanced at the cabin behind Huang and others. My concubine knew the technique of stealth and might have sneaked into your French ship to hide. I don't know. You can the Huajia be convenient for me to enter the ship and search? Go into the ship and search. Huang glanced at the white-faced monk Zhou Hujing's triple cultivator, and there were doubtful gods in his eyes. Why? Chiziu glanced at the two of them. Is this little request embarrassing you? Of course not. Huai Yang's face suddenly changed, and immediately said, "In this case, Li Daiyu entered the ship to search for it." Good Yin spirit strength. Wei Suo quickly grabbed the Yin magic weapon at the foot of this person, quickly. If I devour the Yin Yuan of this magic weapon, I can make up the vitality. At this time, in the cabin in the quiet room, Wei Suo and Ji Ya, of course, also noticed the arrival of this Yin corpse disciple, and at this moment, the old man in green robe shouted in Wei Suo's ear with great excitement. Wei Suo's eyes flickered, but there was no expression. Now that he is in the quiet room of the cabin, he has not seen Chiziu himself, and he can't judge Chiziu's specific behavior, but the conversation between Chiziu and Huai Yang, he can hear clearly. Obviously, this Yin corpse sect is definitely a sect of the Haixian city Huajio far beyond Huai's mouth. He didn't want to provoke such an opponent without knowing the other party. What's more, Han Weiwei's life and death are uncertain, and it will soon be time to cast a spell for Han Weiwei. After a moment, Wei Suo only heard a creep. Obviously the door of the cabin was opened again. After a while, the voices of Chiziu and others seemed to sound in a room not far away. Just listen to Chiziu's voice, "This is my concubine's clothing. It seems that she really sneaked in here. This blood coral was stolen from my residence by me. It is now taken back by me. Your Chinese family, there should be no comments. This blood coral was obviously collected by us not long ago. How could your concubine stole it from you?" A voice that was obviously not Huai Yang said a bit angrily. "What do you mean by this?" Chiziu sneered. "Don't you mean that I am a disciple of Yin corpses, so it is impossible to get tricks to plot your Chinese family? Maybe my partner remembered it wrong." Huani Ang's voice rang immediately. "Since Li Daiyu is sure that this thing was stolen from your residence by your concubine, Li Daiyu can naturally take it back." "Humph," Chiziu snorted heavily. "Since there is something left by my concubine here, maybe she is still lurking here. I have to search for it." This guy is too mean. Wei Suo frowned. Just listening to such a voice, such a scene appeared in his mind. Chi Xiu entered a storeroom, took a fancy to a blood coral inside, and then took Huang and others unnoticed and secretly left a woman's vest in the corner. At this moment, the sound of footsteps was getting closer and closer, as if walking towards their quiet room. Immediately, only Huang's voice rang out, "There are two passing Tianqian continental monks in the quiet room to rescue their companions. I need the prophet to give them a cry." Tianqian mainland monk? Will there be Tianqian mainland monk here? Are you kidding me again? If you should, you can't hide. A slight sneer appeared in the corner of Wei Suo's mouth. Before waiting for Chi Xiu to say anything, he walked to the door and opened the door of this quiet room. When opening the door, Wei Suo saw Huang, who was very yin-sinking, and a cunning young man hidden in his eyes. The young boy in green robe was about the same age as Wei Suo, and he was very handsome. On his green robe, there was a strange ray of cold green flame. Zhou Tianjing's five-fold cultivation is the first level exercises at the prefecture level. With the look of Qi, Wei Zhuo immediately defines such a person. Yep. And at this moment, the young man in green robe looked very handsome. Huang, who was a little ugly next to him, and the young man in a blue shirt felt cold in his heart. The two felt that the eyes of the ancestral disciple of the elder Yin corpse completely regarded Wei Suo as air, passing by Wei Suo as if they were two hot flames, and fell into the quiet room unscrupulously. Jiya's body. It was an invincible greed that burned to the extreme. Li Daiyu, you can see clearly the situation in this quiet room, and there is no trace of your concubine, Hua Yang said vaguely with an ominous hunch to Chi Xiu. I said, this old friend, are you talking nonsense with your eyes open? Chi Xiu's eyes turned, and a hint of evil smile appeared in the corner of her mouth. Bailu, you made me look for a while. Bailu, both Huang and Qing Chen scribes stayed for a while. I don't know what he meant. What does this Daiyu mean? Did you admit the wrong person? Wei Suo smiled coldly. I don't know why, under the circumstances that Han Wei is still alive and dead at the moment, his heart rolls with an uncontrollable, icy killing intention to beat the Yin corpse disciple in front of him and kill him. Bai Lu, although you changed your clothes, I wouldn't recognize it yet. Chi Xiu glanced blankly at Wei Suo. Who are you? How could you be with her? Is it because you seduce you? Did she elope together? Senior Hua, what kind of sect is Yin's corpse in your heavenly continent? Wei Suo suddenly asked Hua Yang seriously. The unpredictable hunch in Hua Yang's mind was even stronger, and hesitation appeared on the face. Are there any monks who have heard of our Yin corpse? Chi Xiu smiled contemptuously. You carefully told him what kind of ancestry our Yin corpse was. He said it. The more detailed, the better. Yin corpse is the largest sect in the northern part of our Yunling continent, including the blood ancestor of the patriarch. There are 5 Jindan monks. His master Yin Sleep Away is also Yin corpse Jindan. One of the monks, Hua Yang's face looked ugly again, and said to Wei Suo. It seems that you don't know enough. Chi Xiu looked at Wei Suo and Ji Yadao very deeply. Our sect master is Jin Dan was Hong's cultivation practice, breaking through to God Profound Realm, becoming the 8th in the Yunling continent. The great God Profound Realm master, which is what happened between these decades. 5-level monk in Jindan period. Wei Suo's mouth widened at once, enough to put down a cooked egg. Do you say she is Bailu? Chi Xiu's mouth appeared a proud god. Watching Jiya's eyes became more naked. As long as you admit that she is Bailu, return her to me. What can I do? Nothing happened, let you go. Naked battles deceive people, and it's not enough to grab things, but also refer to deer as horses. Both Hua Yang and Qing scribes gritted their teeth, but they didn't have any way. For families like their Hua family, the Jindan monks of the Yin corpses could kill them with just one finger. This Daoist really fell in love with this girl. Wei Suo suddenly smiled flatteredly and nodded. Since the Daoist likes it, She has no problem with her name Bailu. I don't know if there are any restrictions on joining your door. Can you also refer me by the way, and accept me as your disciple? This shamelessness made Huang and Qingshen scribes speechless, watching Wei Suo's eyes full of cold contempt. Your words are sincere. Chizio was stunned for a moment, but in her eyes there was a surprised God. Of course it is, Weso nodded. If you are sincere, let me plant the ban first. Chizio's eyes flashed a cunning se. When the entry meets our elder Yin corpse, after the entry ceremony, it will naturally help you to unlock it. 2. If any disciple of Yin corpse has an accident, will the top monks in the door immediately know the ban? Wei Suo suddenly looked at Huang and Qingshen scribes and asked. No, the blue-shirt scribe looked at Wei Suo with some disgust, and didn't want to say more words at all. Don't, Huang suddenly reacted like something. His face suddenly turned white, and he exclaimed. The two sounds of boom. Boom. But at the same time he exclaimed two transparent ripples had already spread on Chizio's head. The cunning in Chizio's eyes had just solidified on his face, and his heavenly spirits had burst into blood. The eyes of the Qingshen scribe also shrank instantly, full of terrifying gods. Although he could not see anything at all, he could feel it. There seemed to be an invisible demon lying on Chizio's head at the moment. Chizio's eyes suddenly lost their light. Spike. Wei Suo didn't seem to move, and Chizio, who was one order higher than him, was killed on the spot by him. Hiss. A purple light burst out of Chizio's arms in an instant. Quick. Don't leave the purple demon baby, otherwise we will all die without a burial ground. Seeing this purple light, Huang, who had a pale face, uttered a scream while a group of white, the brilliance of Shi also suddenly shone out of his hand, Shi towards the front of the purple light. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 236. The green shirt scribes also wake up as if they were dreaming at first, and they glowed with a blaze of blue light on their faces, hitting that purple light. That purple light is exactly the purple demon baby who looks like a baby and is covered in purple and black. I saw that the purple demon baby had a fierce meal in the air, actually avoiding the two brilliances sent by Huai Yang and the Qingshen scribes, and rammed towards the side of the ship's bulkhead. It seemed to want to break through. The bulkhead of the ship crashed out. Quick! Quickly grab this magic weapon. In the roar of the old man in green robe, Wei Suo calmly sacrificed the King Suo silver staff and exhibited the golden snake flurry dance. A large piece of swaying out, almost without a gap, was covered by the purple demon baby who was about to hit the bulkhead of the ship. I saw that the purple demon baby was paralyzed by electricity, and his eyes turned very humanly. A green jade fan with a few ancient bamboo-like runes on the surface of a fan appeared in Wei Suo's hand. As he waved toward the purple demon baby, a green wind coagulated by a handle of wind, a long sword rushed out immediately. Purple demon baby seemed to feel the disaster of extinction, and the whole body was violently stricken with electricity, and he suddenly avoided the violent green sword and slammed towards the cabin wall again. Go with. Laugh. But at this moment, an extremely cold white light rushed out against the bulkhead of the ship, and the purple demon baby hit the white light with one end, and his body suddenly stiffened, immediately wrapped in a layer of hard ice. This white light is a white ice dragon sent by Jiyat. Wei Suo immediately aroused the Qinggang fan obtained from Dong King Ai again. While the purple demon baby was trembling and breaking the strong ice outside, the two winds condensed into the blue wind. The sword passed the baby. The baby suddenly lost its aura, and fell from the air. But at the same time, a gleaming dark red blood spewed out of the baby's mouth at the same time, she towards Wei Suo. With a snapping sound, I saw that the blood of the dark red seer hit the red armor shield that Wei Suo sacrificed in time. I didn't see any more scars on this scarred shield, but under the magical red light, this red armor shield fell to the ground completely, and it was dead. Several figures flew in from the hatch of the ship, just to see the purple demon baby spitting out this blood, and then a snap fell to the ground, and his face suddenly became completely white. Jidayu, you have caused a big disaster this time. The chest of Huai Yang, who didn't use much real money at all, was violently undulating. The original wise eyes were full of panic. I killed all the people I killed. What kind of bad things would happen? Please ask Senior Hua to make a clear statement. Wei Suo glanced at Chi Xiu's corpse standing stiffly on the ground, and a scornful appeared in the corner of his mouth. As long as he is able to make a sneak attack, even if he is a monk of Zhou Tianjing's fivefold, if there is no treasure like Dongqing II that can be shocked by the mind, he is basically only killed by spikes. Just before I heard what you asked me, this wise brother, I realized it was bad, but it was too late to stop you. Huai Yang glanced at the blue-shirt scribes around him, and his voice flickered quickly. Although it's good to say that in our Yunling continent, only the Hunyuanzong has a vital magic lamp to let Zongmen know the specific location where the disciples fell, but this purple demon baby is also a powerful thing that can make Yin corpse. Monk, found something that killed the monk of this disciple. This purple demon baby can only be refined by monks with more than 3 levels of thought. It was made by the elders of the Yin Corpse Gate and rewarded to the Jing English disciples in the Ancestral Gate. This magic weapon is a blood-refining thing, and it is spiritual. Not only can it help the master to make a Yin Yuan magic weapon against the enemy, but if it dies later, it will automatically try to escape to the master of refining. Wei Suo frowned. Since this is the case, hasn't this purple demon baby been killed by us? Is it left? Jidayu, you don't know. Huai said with a miserable face. The purple demon baby itself will also spit out a evil blood arrow, which is the dark red blood of Fang Cai. Because the method of refining the Yin corpse purple demon baby is not known at all, so no one knows what kind of mysterious this evil blood arrow is, but this evil blood arrow is destructive to the method. The effect of the device, and it will also bring a body to the attacker, which will last for a long time. Wei Suo's face slightly changed, because he found himself, with a touch of blood. Generally, purple demon infant will escape in desperate circumstances when it can escape, because it can remember the monk breath that killed its master, and bring the elder who refined it back to find this monk and avenge his master. And when it consciously has no way to escape the other party's killing, it will perform this technique, attacking the person who killed its owner, and the powerful monks of the Yin corpse can feel and trace this gas. Hua Yang looking at Wei Suo, he then said, so if you were just escaped by this purple demon baby, you would be 100% traced by the powerful monk of the Yin corpse's corpse. And killing this purple demon baby, your situation is only slightly better. Because this spirit will not dissipate within 3 years, we have killed the Yin corpse disciples with the purple demon baby on the Yunling continent, and very few people can escape the Yin corpse's pursuit. When I heard Huai Yang's words, not only did Jiya's face become more bloodless, but even the old man in green robe who had been clamoring to the purple demon baby also exclaimed, no. This kind of blood will not go away for 3 years, Wei Suo asked. Is there no way to crack it? The methods are difficult to understand, but unfortunately you are in a sea of stupefaction. Are you in the sea of stupefaction? Wei Suo looked at him. What does Senior Hua mean by this? Huai Yangfei quickly explained, it seems that although the people of the Yin corpse cannot directly track this blood, but as long as it approaches a certain range, it will be aware of this blood. And the number of Yin corpse disciples is amazing, let alone be among the cities in the northern part of our Yunling continent, that is, the sea area outside the Dead Sea. They can be seen everywhere, so if you kill the disciples with the purple demon baby elsewhere, you will be contaminated with this gas. I am afraid immediately you will be besieged by the Yin corpse. Fortunately, there are not many monks entering the Sting Sea, and the probability of encountering the Yin corpse disciple is very small, and the sting in the Sting Sea is said to have a certain barrier to this gas. Function. I heard that there is this alpha asterisk, oh. A monk who killed the Yin corpse Jing English disciple also escaped into the stingy sea. As long as Ji Daiyu can find one in this stingy sea hidden everywhere for 3 years, when the blood goes away, there will be no disaster. Wei Suo frowned. Senior Hua, you mean, my only option is to only hide in this stingy sea for 3 years. There is another option, that is, to cross the Silent Sea and go to the Silent Continent. But most of the waters of the Silent Sea have not been visited by monks, and even the Jindan monks dare not cross it. Huai smiled bitterly. If it were me, I would only choose to hide in this Dead Sea for 3 years. Wei Suo nodded silently, not expressing his attitude, but then asked, does this sting that you just said refers to the white spirit mist in this stinging sea? Yes. The sea area is named Jekii because there is a monster named Pangu giant sting under the sea. This white sting is spouted by this monster and it does not disperse for a long time. This kind of monster is ranked in the 7th order, and its size is extremely huge. It is the overlord in the sea area. There are many monsters of level 5 and above in the stingy sea. The reason why we dare to enter is also because of our stupid ship. Zheling magic circle can stimulate 2 times to simulate the smell of Pangu giant's sting. When encountering monsters that cannot be dealt with, you can use them to startle away. Huai Yang looked at Wei Suo and hesitated. After a bit, he gritted his teeth and said, General monks who are divided into 2 or 3 layers of realm are not afraid to enter the sea easily. This Yin corpse disciple is only Zhou Tianjing's 5 heavy repairs, walking through this stingy sea, and so unscrupulous. There must be a teacher or brother who is much higher than his cultivation as a companion to enter this stupefying sea. Perhaps the people of their Yin corpse are not far from here. It is also necessary to please Brother Ji away from the ship immediately. Leave the ship, Wei Suo glanced blankly at Huai Yang coldly said, you have also seen the situation of the genius, but you dare not block it. This person died. Now that we know nothing about this sea, where can we go after leaving? I know that my request is also somewhat unethical, but I also ask Brother Ji to understand that although I am not afraid of death, if the Yin corpse moves to our Chinese family will definitely be destroyed. He said, we also have only the fixed star copper man on the bow of our ship, and we cannot give Brother Ji the pointing device. However, we can give Brother Ji a copy of this stupid sea chart. Picture, in the future, Brother Ji should be able to get out of the sea area. As long as Brother Ji can understand my last bitterness, our Chinese family will surely remember Brother Ji's present grace. Well, since that is the case, this person was killed by me. When you give me the chart, I will leave the ship. Wei Suo nodded without any nonsense, and said coldly in the face. But then I'm going to use my surgery to cure my companion, and I will have a little time to stay on the ship for a while. And I have some magical tools and immortals that are not enough. I still want to ask you to trade with me. In terms of aspects, I promise you will not lose money. Okay. After hearing Wei Suo's words, a glance of gratitude flashed in Huai Yang's eyes. After clenching his teeth, he nodded and agreed to it, and immediately commanded the monk behind him, first drive the boat back, and at the same time stimulate the Zheling French circle. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 237. Okay, Wei Suo nodded his head without any nonsense. His figure moved directly to Chiziu, and the green outside was scattered just outside him, but now he has lost his aura and can't see the specific product. The green robe of the stage was pulled down. Wei Suo's way of being so familiar with the car made Huai Yang's face change slightly, and his heart was cold. Senior Hua, the Zheling magic circle on your Zheqi ship, which simulates the ancient giant Zhebreath, can be stimulated once, and how long can it last? Wei Suo asked only when he hadn't seen it. Road. Huai Yang said, our Zheling magic circle is excited once, and can maintain the 2 incense sticks for about the time. Wei Suo nodded and said, the time of 2 incense sticks is enough to treat my companion. No matter whether I succeed in curing my companions, I will leave this boat after the time of the 2 incense sticks. I just hope that the 2 incense sticks during the time, unless the person of the corpse sect comes, your people should not enter my quiet room and affect my spell casting. Okay, seeing that Wei Suo didn't want to stay and watch here, Hua Yang immediately turned around and walked out of the cabin. Senior Hua, there is another ruthless invitation underneath. If Senior Hua can help, it should be owed to your Chinese family, but Wei Suo slightly pondered, but suddenly said to him, Hua, the seniors seem to have entered and exited the stingy sea more than once, and it can be said that they know nothing about the sea below. Except for the charts, I do not know whether Senior Hua can still know as much as possible about this sea. Write it down and give it to me. I'll do it right away, as long as Ji Daiyu doesn't blame our Chinese family, and dare to let Ji brothers show affection. Hua Yi smiled bitterly and didn't stop. The figure quickly disappeared at the turning point of the cabin. At this time, Wei Suo had 2 more things in his hand, a purple-black wooden rune and a yellow nabeo. These 2 things were found from Chi Ziu. At the moment, Wei Suo did not immediately check these 2 things, but quickly took out the blood-eating knife and inserted it into Chi Ziu's heart. Then he looked at the 2 things he found. I saw the purple and black wooden runes are very heavy, with a thick layer of oily light on them, some unpleasant smell, but both sides have a grim and ghost-like rune pattern, very strange, cannot see any use. In Chi Ziu's nabeo, there is a bag of spirit stones, and the number of spirit stones in it is not much compared with the monks of the same level on the Tianqian continent. There are only about 3,000 pieces of inferior spirit stones. In addition to this bag of spirit stones, there are not many things in Chi Ziu's nabeo. There is only a blood-red plant, which looks like a coral, but has roots and is obviously a plant thing. A black streamer on the side, a white bone sword, among other things, is a few bits and pieces of things like fulu and elixir that don't seem to be of high quality. The plant of blood-red coral should be the blood coral that Chi Ziu got from this boat. It looks like a wet answer. It seems that it has just been taken out of the water, and it looks very crisp and tender. It should be easy. You can make it look like juice. Only this plant, even Ji Yat and the old man in green robe, did not know what the use was. The black nagata is black and lifeless, and it should look like a magic weapon with good quality in attack and defense. The white bone sword is covered with flaming patterns, and it should look like an attacking magic weapon. Because it was almost time to cast a spell on Han Weiwei, Wei Suo did not have time to try out what these 2 things are. After carefully checking that there should be no restrictions on these 2 things, Wei Suo so I put these 2 things into the nabeo bag first. After checking the rest of the scattered things again, Wei Suo was more and more certain of a rumor he had heard before and of Hua Yang's inference. Earlier, Wei Suo heard that there are few monks who are good at refining wares in Yunling continent, but they have more powerful techniques and exercises than Tianqian continent. Therefore, compared with the Tianqian continent, the Yunling continent is one of powerful spells and lack of magic weapons, while the other is more of magic weapons and magic tools, but the high-grade spells and skills are relatively weak. It seems that this is still the case now, because when Fang Cai, Huangyang, and the blue-shirt scribes bombarded the purple demon baby, they also used spells, not magic instruments. The 5 Jindan monks of the corpse sect, this kind of sect gate, even the strongest Lingyunji Unzone in the 15 cities in the southern part of the Tianqian continent cannot be compared with it, but this is obviously the elite disciple of the corpse section. The number of magic weapons is much worse than that of Yu Huasong's elite disciples, not to mention the comparison with Dong King Ai, the young master of the Dongjao resort where the magic weapons are piled up. And there are no objects, maps, etc. that can indicate the direction among these things. This can only explain one thing. Chi Ziu is definitely not alone into the stingy sea, and maybe there is something on his body that can be compared with the other corpses. Zone people contact. As a result, Wei Suo was even more afraid to try something easily on this person. After careful inspection, and after confirming that there is no special prohibition on the found items, Wei Suo still collects all these items in Chizio's Nabeo. Only then did he pull out the blood-eating knife from Chizio's body. Seeing the red light looming out of the blood-eating knives, it was obvious that Chizio's blood and Xuanhuan were successfully absorbed, and Wei Suo produced a congenital fire, burning Chizio's body directly into ashes. Then Wei Suo will fall to the ground, and the unpleasant purple demon babies are also included in the Nabeo capsule, and immediately return to the quiet room, standing in front of Han Weiwei. Han Weiwei's face didn't have a trace of blood at the moment, like ice sculptures, life and death unknown. I saw Wei Suo's complexion changed for a while, and after taking a few deep breaths in a row, he made up his mind and slammed his teeth and stretched out his hand. A stream of purple True Yuan flowed out quickly at his fingertips. With the change of the tactics in his hand, this strand of purple True Yuan condensed into a purple light of the size of a soybean in his hand. Tuan was shaken by Wei Suo into Han Weiwei's eyebrows. After that, Wei Suo kept condensing such purple light clusters for a while, and he constantly broke into the various tricks of Han Weiwei's body. The purple light was brilliant in the entire quiet room. With more than 100 such purple light groups hitting Han Weiwei's body, Wei Suo's head was already purple and sweating. The blood and True Yuan completely frozen in Han Weiwei's body, under the impulse of these purple light groups, seemed to be squeezed hard and circulated in Han Weiwei's body. Suddenly, Wei Wei of Shi Wei had stopped, and a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. At this moment, although Han Weiwei still does not seem to change, the whole body that originally appeared ice-cold and lustrous has a faint purple brilliance. The more than 100 purple luminous clusters did not disappear after squeezing the blood and True Yuan that had been completely frozen in her body, but gave people a kind of 100 in her body. A lot of small purple spirit spring-like feelings, flowing purple aura constantly, infiltrating her body. Seeing the look of surprise in Wei Suo's eyes, Jiya's body trembled violently, her beautiful lips trembled, but she was afraid to ask questions. Done. At this time, Wei Suo, who was already soaked in the body and had a feeling of exhaustion, was extremely nervous, and he dare not make a whisper. Your luck is good enough, this little beauty is also fatal enough to be alive at this time, the old man in green robe sighed. I was afraid that you were too nervous, and something went wrong, so I told you. There is a success rate of 50%, but in fact I think there is a success rate of less than 40%. Unexpectedly, a success rate of less than 40% actually makes you succeed. Dead old man. Wei Suo suddenly could not help but yell out. Wei Suo, Jiya's face changed, her body shook, but she couldn't say anything. It's done, it's a success. Seeing Jiya's appearance, Wei Suo knew she must have been wrong and thought she had failed. Immediately said quickly, I just cursed the old man of Li Xuanhuan, the means was so mean. Bah! The words turned fast, but I wasn't actually scolding me. You weren't me, or you couldn't even save this little beauty. When the time comes, you don't know where to hide and cry. Green robe old man, he snorted in Wei Suo's ears. Cry you, Wei Suo scolded inwardly. But I feel like my face is a little cold. Don't be complacent, we'll follow this method once a day. Otherwise, as long as one day is broken, she will still be cut off immediately, and she will not be able to save her with a cry. Jiya stood blank, but her eyes were already blurred. For a moment, she felt that the sky had collapsed, but the man in front of him, who seemed very ordinary, helped her to support her world. Before, she was all supporting herself desperately, but now, standing behind him, she doesn't seem to have to support anything at all. It seems that she is only used as an ordinary female nun. It's so sensational. Grandma's taste is so uncomfortable. Li Xuanhuan, you almost killed me. I didn't say it, and it made me so uncomfortable. I will definitely let you taste this kind of taste. Ji Ya, who was standing in a daze with tears in her eyes, didn't know that Wei Ya, who was thinking of Ji Ya at the moment, whispered again in her heart, and immediately nodded to Ji Ya, said, let's go out and say. Yeah, Ji Ya nodded. Wei Suo was stunned. How did Ji Ya feel a little different from before? Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 238. The blue-shirt scribes and others all stood on the deck, and as the layers of gleaming grey brilliance flashed, a huge enchantment emanated from the ship. After a moment of anxiety, there was footsteps in the cabin, and Wei Suo and Ji Ya holding Han Wei walked out. Ji Daiyu, as soon as he saw Wei Suo walked out, the servant headed by the blue shirt, greeted with embarrassment and gratitude. Senior Hua, Wei Suo swept around and asked immediately. He is preparing what Ji Daiyu wants, and it should be ready soon. The man in the blue shirt only said the sentence. I saw the figure flashed, and Hua Yang just happened to have swept it out of the cabin. Ji Daiyu, this one is all the charts we know. Hua Yang first handed a yellow animal skin to Weizhuo, and then handed a roll of white silk to Weizhuo. What I remember is something I know. I hope it will be useful to Ji Daiyu. Wei Suo took these two things, opened them, looked at them, nodded and said, thank you, Senior Hua. After saying this, he saw that he reached out and grabbed the blood coral. It came out and handed it to Hua Yang. Should this be yours? It is true that this blood coral was originally one of the main goals of our visit to the Stingy Sea this time. It is very useful for our Chinese family, and we have paid a lot for collecting this thing. On the face of Hua Yang, who had taken the blood coral, there was another grateful look. If it is not Ji Daiyu, this thing has already fallen into the hands of Qi Ziyu. What are the requirements for Ji Daiyu next? We must meet as much as we can. The next thing is to hide in this Stingy Sea for a while. I don't lack the general medicine to restore the true Yuan, but it can be used for cultivation. The medicine to improve the cultivation is not prepared. I don't know if you have any body. No such panacea can be transferred to Xia. Wei Suo said politely, and the defensive instruments on Xia have already been consumed, and then in case of encountering the corpse monk, the situation is very bad. Do you have any good ranks on hand? It is best that the defensive instruments above the spirit rank can be transferred to the next, and you will never let you lose at the bottom, and you can even use the corresponding rank to attack in exchange for a magic weapon. In exchange for an attack magic weapon of the corresponding rank. As soon as Wei Suo said this, let alone Hua Yang and others, even Ji Ya's eyes beside Wei Suo showed a shocked look. Trade defensive magic weapons of corresponding rank for attack magic weapons. Such a transaction is really only profitable. Take the magic weapon of the lower rank of the spirit order as an example. An attacking magic weapon often has 1,000 lower quality spirit stones than a defensive magic weapon. After all, every monk wants a magic weapon with strong attack power. As for the defensive magic weapon, if you can't get the spirit level defensive magic weapon, you can get a few more magic weapons above the half level. A middle-aged monk wearing a blue shirt and a short monk wearing a grey robe looked at each other with a look of disbelief in Huai's eyes. It's a good thing, but after seeing Wei Suo's positive look, the middle-aged monk wearing a blue shirt with a square face hesitated for a while and then clenched his fist. The younger generation has a defensive magic weapon of the lower ranks of the spirit order, but only this one is usually not used for trading. But if Senior Ji can really use the corresponding spirit level attack magic weapon as an exchange, the junior earns a lot of money, and naturally can be exchanged for Senior Ji. Under such circumstances, of course it is impossible to laugh at the next. Wei Suo removed 3 things directly from the Nebeo's pocket without expression, and introduced one by one. This is a ghost tooth blade, with a 6th level low, the lower level magic weapon made by the sharp teeth of the 1st level monster beast Ghost Tooth. This is the ice and snow hinge, made from the claws of the 6th level lower level monster beast Cold Hammer. This black arrow I don't know what the material is. I accidentally obtained it, but the rank is also the lower rank of the spirit rank. If you really have the defensive magic of the lower rank of the spirit rank, you can choose one of these three things. So many spirit level attacks. The Yunling continental monks present on the Zheqi ship were completely shocked. It should be known that even in the Tianqian continent, a monk took out 3 pieces of spirit level attacking magic tools, which is shocking enough, not to mention the Yunling continent where magic weapons and magic tools are relatively poor. He actually has so many spirit level attack weapons. He really is not a general monk. Ji Ya looked at Wei Suo's eyes with a strange look. If there is a higher level defensive magic weapon, it can be exchanged in the same way below, but at this moment Wei Suo still seems to feel that the shock is not enough, and added such a sentence, Ling level lower grade attack weapon. There are also several pieces in the lower hands. This is the hiking crab magic shield underneath. It is a water defense magic weapon made from the carapace of the hiking demon crab of the 6th rank. The defense power can reach the lower rank of the spirit rank. Please check with your senior. After being shocked by the middle-aged monk Fang face, it can be said that he was very surprised and immediately took out one side and 1 person tall. The appearance was really like a crab shell. The blue shield was handed to Weizhuo, and at the same time looked at Weizhuo with excitement. Senior, can you take a look at these 3 magic weapons in your hands? Of course it is. Wei Suo quietly handed the 3 magic weapons in his hand to the monk, but he tried the magic shield passed by him. I saw that with the infusion of the true element, the blue light on this shield was blooming, and the aura of the water system formed a layer of water curtain more than 1 foot thick on the surface of the shield. A congenital real fire blew slightly on this shield, and Wei Suo immediately tried it out. The defensive power of this water shield was indeed at the level of the inferior spirit level. The middle-aged monk in blue shirt originally seemed a little embarrassed. After seeing Wei Suo's move, he also tried to inject Xuanhuan into the magic weapon Ghost Tooth Blade that Wei Suo obtained from Yu Huasong's elite disciple. I saw that under the real attention of the middle-aged monk in the blue shirt, the Ghost Tooth Blade was immediately excited and turned into a white light. After an instant blast of a distance of 60 to 70 feet, he flew back to the blue-face monk in the hands. Thank you, Senior Ji. This magic weapon is coming soon. As soon as he felt the power of this magic weapon, the blue-faced monk's face suddenly had a cheerful expression, and he didn't try the other 2 magic weapons. The ice and snow hinge that Wei Suo obtained from Tianfengzi and the black arrow from the red beetle boss were returned to Wei Suo. After returning the 2 magic weapons to Wei Suo, the monk felt that he was taking a lot of money. He felt uncomfortable and took out a pill bottle from his body and handed it to Wei Suo. The Beishui Dan can be used for cultivation. The seniors have given such benefits, and these are given to the seniors. Okay, Wei Suo was also polite. After accepting this immortal bottle, he continued to ask, I don't know the rest of the Taoists, are there any defensive magic weapons that can be used for exchange? The monks who looked at the blue-faced monk with envious expressions around his eyes suddenly gathered on the blue-shirt scribes beside Huai's mediocrity. The blue-shirt scribes flashed his eyes a few times. He gritted his teeth and looked at Wei Suodeo. In his lower hand, there is a defensive magic weapon of the spirit rank middle class, just. The defensive magic weapon of the spirit order middle grade. Wei Suo was also taken aback at this time. The defensive magic weapon of the spirit order middle grade was rare in the Tianqian continent, and he had never had this kind of product in his hands. Tier of defense magic. Just what, in his heart, Wei Suo looked at the t-shirt, whispered quietly, if you have anything, just say it. The blue shirt scribes apologetically explained, if Ji Daiyu has something to ask for, I can't refuse to exchange this magic weapon with Ji Daiyu. But on our stingy ship, there are only 2 defensive magic weapons above the spirit level. There are not many defensive weapons in the hands of the rest. It is for this reason that Hua Lao specially invited me to go with me. Now the hiking crab shield is already in the hands of Ji Daiyu, and if we have this magic weapon, we are here. There is much less guarantee to walk in the air. After hesitating for a while, the blue shirt scribes made up their minds and said, if G-Daiyu can provide 1 or 2 defensive shields close to the spirit rank, then you can avoid G-Brother's spirit rank middle class attack magic weapon, as long as one spirit the inferior attack magic weapon exchanged this defensive magic weapon on my body to G-Daiyu. On the lower body, there is only one side of the magic shield that is close to the spirit level. Can you use one of the defensive shields close to the spirit level to exchange the 2 middle level defensive magic weapons on the Taoist with these 2 magic weapons? If the Taoist feels that it is not enough, the next half-soul level instruments can also be given. Wei Suo said a little to the Qing shirt scribes after he groaned a little. In fact, Wei Suo now has a defensive magic weapon that is close to the spirit level. There is also a golden sunflower shield, 2 bronze shields obtained from the black rat's old rat whisker, and the one obtained from the disciples of Yue Huazong. Refined aura amulet, but the 2 bronze shields are also a set of shields. At the key time, it can be worth a spirit level aura. An aura amulet is an aura of light aura, and Weizhuo has only this now. One piece is naturally impossible to exchange. 2 pieces of lower level magic weapon with a lower level and a magic shield close to that of the lower level. Upon hearing Wei Suo's words, the servant of the blue shirt suddenly sweated. Such conditions far exceeded his proposal, and naturally he could not refuse. G-Daiyu's proposal, there can be no objection. After taking a deep breath, nodded, the blue shirt scribe stretched out his hand, took out a black lotus-like magic weapon, and directly demonstrated it. This magic weapon is called the Black Water Lotus Platform. It is made from a kind of black water lotus in the Dead Sea. This black water lotus grows in the extremely deep torrent abyss of the seabed, and it is constantly washed by the torrent. Tough. I saw that the black lotus that had been only a few feet long kept growing in size with the infusion of the blue shirt scribe Xuanhuan, but it turned into a 4-leaf lotus with a height of 1 person, 4 oval-shaped shields. Black light lingers on the upright lotus petals with the touch of the blue shirt scribes. The whole black lotus can rotate freely, just like the 4 magic shields. You can adjust the orientation. Dao, be careful, let me try it. After Wei Suo said this to the Qingshen scribes, he directly excited the black arrow in his hand at the black water lotus platform. I saw the little black arrow turned into a black light hitting one of the lotus petals in it, but it was bounced away immediately, and the black lotus petals did not have a trace of scars. Even the black light did not break up. It is good. Seeing such a scene, Wei Suo suddenly overjoyed. Obviously, this black water lotus platform is indeed a real defensive magic weapon of middle rank. Wei Suo, you made a lot of business at this time. The voice of the old man in the green robe also rang in Weizhuo's ears. This black water lotus is also a rare treasure in the ancient world of monasticism. It can absorb some special water system aura and sparse water system aura to enhance its own power. It is an advanced magic weapon. Can it be an advanced magic weapon? Wei Suo almost couldn't control it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 239. Wei Suo has also heard before that magic weapons made with some different treasures can absorb the aura of some other special materials and slowly advance. But at least in the entire Lingyu city, this magic weapon has never heard of anyone. Resisting the surprise in his heart, Wei Suo took out the golden sunflower shield silently and handed the black arrow and the ice and snow hinge to the Qingshi scribe. I don't know how to call this Taoist. Big Cheap is a bit embarrassed. Wei Suo also asked the monk who didn't know the name so far. It's Chiziren, but the sergeant in the blue shirt didn't seem to know the appearance of the black water lotus, and tried the ice hinge slightly, and found that this thing seemed more useful than the black arrow, but he was also a pair. It's cheap and embarrassed. Just like the blue shirt monk, he took a pill bottle from his body and handed it to Wei Suo. G-Daiyu, I owe you a lot. You can also use the clothes inside. Use Yuling's Beishwitten, even if he made up for the apology a little bit. Senior G, there seem to be many instruments on your body at this time. The burly monk who seemed to have been controlling the direction of the ship's navigation almost all over the body, asked with courage, "We don't have what you want in us. The defensive magic weapon, but we also have some spirit stones and immortals and other things, which may also be useful to the seniors. If the seniors have some unused magic weapons, can they be sold to us?" After a pause, the monk added with a bitter smile, "After all, our predecessors may also know that our Yunling mainland knows that there are fewer monks in the cultivator, and unless they are monks with more than 4 levels of division, they can withstand the super long-distance transmission of the magic pressure of the magic circle. For our kind of Yunling mainland monk who is not very high, even if he has the heart, he has no ability to go to the Tianqian continent and other continents where his predecessors are located to buy magic weapons. The magic weapon of the order, even the magic weapon of the half-spirit order, is also very rare for us. What's wrong with this? There are still some magical instruments in my hand." Wei Suo slightly stunned and immediately agreed. Although a large number of magical tools obtained by Midiang and his group have been removed, only Lu Sanbao's sword, Yin Nun nails, gold carp-like set of magical tools, fire jade gourd and other objects have been left, but from Kifeng some of the monks in Qingjin Mansion and the old rat's beard were also benefited by Weizhuo. Now, Weizhuo's semi-spirit attack magic weapon and magic shield can't be used together. There are 6 or 7 pieces, and Wei Suo also has a squirrel-shaped flying knife with a handle that is also inferior to the spirit level. Because it also contains Taijing gold, it is possible for Wei Suo to refine flying swords and other magic weapons in the future. Will be useful, so Wei Suo did not come up with it. In addition, Wei Suo also has a magic-like magic weapon drop dragon ruler obtained from Golden 5 Jin Shenxian. Hearing Wei Suo's promise, the monk on the stingy ship was overjoyed, and the burly monk with almost all his upper body immediately asked excitedly, "Senior G, I don't know if you are a semi-spiritual attack, how many spirit stones do you want in exchange for?" Because he had already gained a lot of benefits, Wei Suo did not want to sit on the floor and quoted a price equivalent to the reserve price of the auction. A half-level attack weapon has 2,000 inferior spirit stones, and a half-level defense weapon has 1,500. Lower grade spirit stone. What do you think? Senior G, you are too generous. The blue-faced monk who first traded with Wei Suo couldn't help but whispered, "To be honest, in our Yunling continent, a semi-spiritual attack weapon it is simply impossible to buy without 2,500 inferior spirit stones, and a half-level common law shield must have at least 1,800 inferior spirit stones." Such a response did not meet Wei Suo's expectations, and nodded in response. Wei Suo took out all the semi-spiritual magical instruments obtained from the Jinfu monks and the old rat. "I want that attack weapon. Senior G, you see me, the combination of the elixir and the spirit stone is almost equivalent to 1,500 inferior spirit stones. Can it be used for that shield?" For a time, what made Ji Ya look dumbfounded was that the atmosphere on the deck was extremely tense, but at the moment, it was completely turned into a hot small trade fair. Even Huai, who was rebuilt in Zhou Tianjing's 5 times, hesitated after a while. They took out the 4,000 inferior spirit stones they carried, and bought 2 half-spirit level attacks. After all, although this kind of powerful magic weapon is not available for his cultivation, his disciples must be able to use it. At this time, Wei Suo seemed to have become a magician who came from the Tianqian continent. It's just that the spirit stones carried by the famous monks on this Zheqi ship are limited. After almost all the spirit stones on the body and the elixir that can be used for cultivation have been wiped out, Wei Suo is in front of him. There are a total of 4 half-spiritual magic instruments that cannot be eaten. With the exception of Huai Yang and the Qing shirt rider named Qi Xinran, who was slightly reserved, the rest of the monks were annoyed that they didn't bring enough spirit stones this time. Looking at the annoyed appearance of these monks, Wei Suo flashed in his heart, and said, I heard below that the higher grade exercises and techniques of the Yunling continent are more than our Tianqian continent. If you have a level, the above techniques can also be used to exchange the magical tools on my body. Spells above the ground level. When Wei Suo said this, the rest of the monks' faces were helpless. Only one of the grey robes was hesitant, saying, below instead. It happened to be a prefecture level high level exercise. This exercise is called the Killing God Sutra. It is not a true elemental exercise, it is an exercise that can enhance God's consciousness. Is there a method that can enhance the consciousness? Wei Suo suddenly blinked. If it really has such an effect, don't say that these 4 semi-spiritual magic instruments, just add a spiritual magic weapon. I can also use exchange. Senior G doesn't know. The method I got from this introduction is indeed ranked high in the prefecture level, but it is a lot of limitations in practice, and it can't be overstated with chicken ribs. The short robe monk smiled bitterly and said, to practice this method, you must have a monk with similar consciousness strength as yourself. From time to time, you can launch a shock of consciousness to attack yourself. Repeated practice stops to improve your own resistance. So to practice this method, there must be a monk who is similar to him from time to time, and this monk will be able to use the psychic impact technique. If Senior G is interested in my practice, as long as one of these half-spiritual instruments is enough. Okay, seeing that Wei Suo just blinked, he immediately agreed without a word. You tell me the skill, and you can choose among these instruments. Thank you, Senior G. The grey-robed monk immediately rejoiced, and quickly took out a piece of dark yellow jade that looked very old, and handed it to Wei Suo. Then, from the remaining 4 artifacts, the only one offensive magical instrument with a sharp cone shape was selected. If Senior Hua just said that the time is not bad, this Zheling Zhen should lose its power immediately. Just as the monk on the ship looked at the grey robe with envy, Wei Suo was after reaching out. He received the dark yellow jade charm and the other 3 ordinary half-soul level shields, and said so leisurely. All the monks on the Sting ship were startled. After a lively small auction, they also reacted immediately. The situation at this moment is still very bad. Senior Hua, we have only slightly read what you recorded, and found that you remember it in great detail, remembering the characteristics and grades of many monsters around this stingy sea. But what you said makes the sea area covered with white mist. The Pangu giant sting seems to be unintroduced at this moment. We only heard Wei Suo ask, I don't know if this Pangu giant sting looks a bit like an ant, but it is amazingly huge, like a hill, and a monster with an amazing toothless beak on its head. I haven't seen this monster in person, but what you said is exactly the legendary Pangu giant sting. Hua Yang and all the monks on the ship were suddenly covered with incredible gods. Ji Daiyu, this is the first time you have entered the stingy sea. Have you ever seen this ancient giant sting? Wei Suo nodded and said, I met this thing before I met you, and I was able to escape by chance. Senior G is really blessed with great fortune. He can escape even if he encounters this kind of monster, and he will surely be able to turn away this time. Huai could not help but looked at Chi Xin ran next to each other with a shock in his eyes. God se. I'm afraid that the ancient giant sting just had a full meal and had no interest in me. Wei Suo shook his head and said, I don't know if there is a way to be aware of it in advance and avoid this thing. No, this thing is rare to see, and it is also difficult for ordinary monks to see it. It is said that this Pangu giant sting likes to lurk in the deep sea of a place, and it will not easily move. It is best not to go where it appears. After Huang said this, he suddenly remembered something like that. His eyes brightened, but this ancient giant stupid demon is said to be extremely pure, and it is used to refine high-order spirits that can be used for cultivation. Dan's best thing. And it is said that there are some special magic. If Jizuxio is high enough to kill this monster in the future, you can go to the sea where you meet this monster and try to kill this monster. Beast. Special magic. Wei Suo, slightly stunned, is said to be of great benefit to the monks, but the specifics, I have limited knowledge, but I do not know. Go to some big cities in China's Yunling mainland and find some predecessors who have cultivation and insights. Maybe someone knows what special magic is there. Huayang answered. At the end of his remarks, the gray light that was rippling on the Zheqi ship also disappeared. Here is ready to leave now. Wei Suo took Huang's animal skin chart in his hand and looked at Huaiyang asked, Senior Hua, I don't know where we are on this chart at this moment, what kind of orientation? We are here. This side is south, this side is north. Huayang clicked on Huang's map, and made 4 directions clear to Wei Suo. After Wei Suo looked away from the chart, he didn't say anything. After nodding at Jia, he directly sacrificed the willow-shaped flying talisman. Between several breaths, he and Jia, Han Weiwei, disappeared in the white mist. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 240. After counting, the blue light flashed in the dense white fog above an island in the stingy sea, and Wei Suo, Jia, and Han Weiwei appeared. There is nothing wrong here. Wei Suo, holding a yellow skin map, carefully looked at the island below, and a surprise appeared on his face. The island is only 5 or 6 miles away, with some sparse trees, and it looks unremarkable. On the yellow skin map, the island's name is also very poor, named Wuji Island, just because the shape of the island looks like a black chicken, and there is no material around. However, it was precisely because of the commonness of this island that Wei Suo specifically chose this island. Now, as long as every RI casts a spell for Han Weiwei, there will be no problem for several years. For safety, Wei Suo and Jia had prepared to really dive in this stingy sea for 3 years before leaving the stingy ship. After 3 years, the body of Wei Suo dissipated and tried to go to sea. This Uchijima where very few monks pass by is the place where the two chose to hide and practice. After hovering over Wuji Island for a week, Wei Suo chose a mountain wall that was difficult to see in the sky and fell. Because I originally considered that I might not go back for a long time, when I left Xiao Mountain Cave House last time, in addition to giving Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaokun a large amount of spirit stone, I will also have Lu who is most suitable for opening the cave house. The big sword of the 3 guns was also reserved for this simple pair of brains. In this way, when the 2 are idle, they can make the cave house a little bit more difficult. After the spirit stone is used up, it should be able to quickly dig a tunnel with this knife, not to stay in the cave house for a long time. But this big knife was not on his body, but Wei Suo could not help. Seeing that he didn't think much about it, he took out the handle from Nabeo's pocket and burned it with his phosphorus sand. He also had some aura green swords, which were cut sharply on the mountain wall. Because I once had the experience of self-built Dongfu, only half a day, a simple temporary Dongfu has begun to take shape. This is the same as Xiao Mountain Zhongdong Mansion, which has a hall and 3 ordinary rooms, a temporary cave mansion dedicated to cultivating heartworms, and was dug directly on the mountain wall close to the ground. The reason for this is that the trees on this Wuji Island are relatively sparse and low, so that the entrance of this cave house can be covered by the woods. The most important reason is that in the Beiyuan jade box on Wei Suo, there is a seedling of xianxian prepared at any time. Wei Suo, who had the experience of cultivating extinction in Xiao Mountain, has been very clear that if the entrance is too high, it will take a long time for this extinction vine to reach that height, which has a real protection effect on the entrance of Dongfu. Looking at the busy Wei Suo, Jia found that she didn't care about anything at all, which made a peculiar feeling rise in the mind of the beautiful ice and snow beauty for the first time in more than 10 years. This is Beiyuan jade box. When she saw that Wei Suo took out a white jade box from the Nabeo and took out a living extinct vine, her beautiful eyes were filled with the most surprised God. Yep. After Wei Suo nodded his head honestly, he immediately lowered his head to select a place to dig a pit to plant the seedling of centella. Jiya's beauty makes him a little dizzy, and when looking at Jiya's clear eyes, he can't help but think of Jiya seen in Midiangwu, even more dimly afraid to look directly at her eyes. How many secrets are there in him? After receiving a positive answer from Wei Suo, Jiya looked at the monk who had been said to be insignificant by Han Weiwei, but she couldn't help but such a thought emerged. Wei Suo's busyness lasted another hour or two. Originally, he wanted to arrange the Golden Gate Stonehenge outside his temporary cave house, but it might be noticeable that the earth array was arranged outside, so after hesitating for a while, he still enlarged the hall of the temporary cave. After some, then put the Golden Gate Stonehenge inside. I live in a cave house with the first beauty of Lingyu City now. When he was busy, Wei Suo had no other ideas, but when this temporary was basically done, Wei Suo's fancy thoughts increased again. Unfortunately, there is no mountain spring like Xiao Mountain, there is no mountain fire and no ground fire house, and there is no hot spring pool. I don't know how Nangongyuking is now. Thinking of the hot spring pool, Wei Suo couldn't help but miss Nangongyuking. I don't know why. It may be that Jiya looks too beautiful. Even when he imagines what happened to him and her, he feels blasphemous. But you can't leave the first beauty of Lingyu City aside, and then go to retreat and practice yourself? Jiya, do you have any magical tools and immortals for cultivation? So after hesitation, Wei Suo hesitated for a while, then looked at Jiya and asked. Then Li Xuanhuan knew that you had taken Dong King Ai to come to exchange me and Han Weiwei, and then turned her face completely. He took all the magical tools and Nabeo from me. Jiya shook her head. This is the Qing Gang fan I got from Dong King Ai. Although he is too bad, this thing is still good. It has the power of spirit level and intermediate rank. You can use it first. With Jiya's cultivation of Wei, coupled with a spirit level intermediate magic weapon, if a strong enemy strikes, it can also play a lot of roles. When we brought this thing to Jiya, Wei Suo didn't think much, but what he didn't think about was hearing that Dong King Ai's people were too bad, but when things were good, Jiya's mouth showed a whimper. The slightly raised corner of Jiya's mouth can't be overstated with a smile, which makes Wei Suo a little dumbfounded. Just give me some spirit stones. I have been using spirit stones to practice. Seeing Wei Suo looking at himself stupefied, Jiya didn't know what to do, and she was a little confused. An unprecedented feeling rippled across her body. Wei Suo hasn't said to give her the pill, and she couldn't help it. This made her unprecedentedly more confused, and added a cover-up sentence, Wei Suo, update the fastest O0. Reason you better not always practice with elixir. Practice with elixir. Although the speed is faster, the Dan medicine is used much, which is very unfavorable for the cultivation of Jin Dan. Have you always used spirit stones to practice? Jiya's words surprised Wei Suo. It's not that he didn't know how to practice with elixir, and that the body's repellent power is too much, which will reduce the success rate of Jidan. Anyway, he still has purple fox flowers in his hand. Before reaching Jidan, he only needs to refine the purple fox flowers. In fact, the vast majority of monks would rather choose to use the elixir as soon as possible to improve their cultivation ability, and at the same time try to find the elixir of purple fox flower. After all, cultivation is too important for monks. The higher the cultivation, the more likely it is to get good things and go out safer. Besides, the vast majority of monks, even if they practice with the elixir made from the demon pill, can't cultivate the 5 levels of the ideal in their lifetime. He was surprised because Jiya has been practicing with spirit stones, and now it is Zhou Tianjing's triple practice. Moreover, Jiya also spends a lot of time on alchemy, which shows that Jiya's talent is indeed the same as Han Weiwei said, very high. Jiya was a little afraid to look at Wei Suo's eyes and nodded, I have been practicing with spirit stones. Great, Wei Suo could not help sighing when Jiya nodded. It seems that even if it is a monk with the same talent, the talent is still superior. He didn't believe in the ordinary talented spiritual root monk, but also had talents like Jiya. I still have a purple fox flower on my body, which can be used before the formation of the dandan. There should be no problem with the elixir made from these demon pill. After a sigh, Wei Suo looked at Ji Ya and said this. If he changed the rest of the people, he would never reveal that there was a purple fox flower on his body. But after Mi Tiangu had seen the scene where Ji Ya collected Xianming Immortal Lotus for Han Weiwei, Wei Suo knew very well this peerless beauty who had only seen him once or twice. Especially in the current situation, he did not hide it. You still have a purple fox flower, Ji Ya heard Wei Suo said, and she opened her eyes in disbelief. The purple fox flower is rare in a century. Have you got 2 plants in total? It's 4 strains. Seeing that the first beauty of Lingyu City was so shocked, Wei Suo's vanity was suddenly greatly satisfied, and said with some pride, I gave Han Weiwei a strain, and I was forced by myself. I swallowed a hexadan and refined a plant. Later, in order to arrive at Kifeng City earlier, I rushed back earlier. I myself swallowed a hexadan and refined another plant. There is still 1 plant left on my body. Speaking of which, Wei Suo's voice suddenly changed. This change was not the tone of his speech, but the sudden change in his voice. Wei Suo was still proud, but suddenly, he reacted and his eyes almost swelled. Voice pill. Wei Suo not only disguised himself before, but also changed his voice by changing voice. But from outside the 7-star city to the present, it has been a Jindan monk all the way, a teleportation array collapsed, and a Pangu giant sting. He himself has forgotten this code thing. The most important thing is that Ji Ya had heard his real voice in Midiang. When the voice changed, Ji Ya's body was obviously violent, and a pair of beautiful eyes stared at Wei Suo's face unconsciously. Suo swallowed hard. For a moment he didn't know whether he would continue to pretend to have a big tongue or not. But at this time, in his ear, he heard a slight, strange buzzing sound. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 241. What sound? Zheng Dehan didn't know how to face Ji Ya's. Wei Suo suddenly turned around shamelessly and ran to the hole. But it is not an illusion. The buzzing sound is indeed faintly coming from the white mist, as if there is some flying escape device flying in the air. After a moment, the sound seemed to become more distant and disappeared. But after a while, the voice appeared again. A weird look appeared in Wei Suo's eyes. This sound gave Wei Suo the feeling of someone searching in one place after another. Suddenly, what changed Wei Suo's complexion was that a sharp bird hissing like a roar of birds roared in the distant sea, and it was getting closer and closer to the island. In his shocked eyes, an owl looks like an enlarged fold, but it looks like a fish body, covered with wet answered silver grey fish scale monsters, penetrated by a thick white mist. With a snap, it fell like a meteorite into a mountain forest only 30 or 40 feet away from Wei Suo. This is a silver carp eagle. It is a monster of the 4th level. The old man in green robe rang out in Wei Suo's ear with a cry of exclamation. I saw that the silver carp eagle that hit the ground didn't move at all. It seemed to be dead when it fell in the air. However, this kind of head is almost equivalent to the 4th level upper level monster beast of the strength of a monk in ordinary Zhou Tianjing, but there are no particularly obvious scars on his body. What is that? A tricolor brilliance suddenly emerged from the belly of the silver carp eagle that looked like a fish belly, and then flew out with a buzz, disappearing under Wei Suo's eyelids. The 3-color huaguang seems to be a fat, toot-like, 3-color fat bug like a silkworm. I couldn't see any wings on that bug, but it just flew out like this. This made Wei Suo a bit numb and tingling cold sweat, feeling the wind blowing behind him. Looking back, Wei Suo's cold sweat worsened. Because it was not a cloudy wind, Ji Ya, who had temporarily placed Han Weiwei, also flew out of the cave. The wind was brought up when she flew out. The 3-color obese bug, Ji Ya, who appeared, also seemed to see it, and Jean was preparing to plead guilty, saying that the day was mine, but Ji Ya did not say anything, but stood not far from Wei Suo. He looked up nervously at the place where the 3-color fat bug disappeared. He didn't have to ask Wei Suomi what happened in Tiangu. Did she not hear my voice? Yeah, after such a long time, I guess I have forgotten it. Wei Suo's eyes turned around thieves and smeared a sweat secretly. At this time, the buzzing sound seemed to disappear. But after only a short while, the sound rang again, obviously getting closer and closer. It's Gu. Jiya's tone was a little quiet and a little nervous. Drum, the anxious Wei Suo gave a surprised look at the beautiful woman who seemed to have a stunning feeling. I thought that the voice was clearly from the three-color fat insect just now. How could someone be knocking? What about drums? Jiya nodded. The shape of the insect just now is the same as that of the ordinary fengling silkworm, but the fengling silkworm is white, and the insect has a medicinal effect on it. Refined Xiangu. Is it Gu? Wei Suo finally reacted, and Jiya was talking about Gugu's Gu, instead of drumming. Let's go, what are you going to do? I don't have any worms to entertain you here. What made him look so bad was that there was a blue, red, and white glory. It emerged from the white mist again, and the bug went back. But looking closely, Wei Suo found that he had blamed the fat worm just now. The three-color worm flying into Wuji Island looks thinner, not the one just now. I saw this seemingly malnourished slender man was hovering a little bit, as if searching carefully in a small area. As if we felt Wei Suo's gaze, the skinny worm suddenly stopped and looked towards Wei Suo and Jiya. No. Wei Suo suddenly felt a little bad in his heart, and immediately pulled out the Green Emperor's gourd subconsciously and inspired it. However, this aura fluctuation when inspiring the Green Emperor gourd, but instead let this skinny worm lock his position at once. I saw a strange three-color brilliance flashing on this article, even without wings, but flying in the sky, straight shot towards Wei Suo and Jiya, and Yulianzhen inspired by Lilian Xuanhuan gourd. It's useless to entrap both of them in anger. Everyone is away, and peace is the most important thing. This worm brother, why not, why bother? With a bitter face on his face, Wei Suo didn't dare to kill this skinny worm easily, but he first inspired the aura of light, and inspired a shield of aura, protecting himself and G elegant. With a snap sound, a tricolor gang of gas appeared on the head of this skinny worm, condensing into the shape of a small drill, and piercing Weizhuo's aura. This aura of light was actually flashed by such a finger-sized bug. The attack power of this skinny worm is as good as a half-spiritual magic weapon. Are you gone? What made Jiya a little relieved was that this skinny worm bumped and flew up, disappearing into the thick white mist above. It's better to go. Wei Suo looked at Jiya with a wry smile, and said, I'm afraid that it won't take advantage of it. I go back and call my brothers and sisters, the master, or something to deal with us. Jiya's eyebrows were tightly locked, and he was able to cultivate this kind of rank, and he had such a spiritual Xiangu monk, and his cultivation was definitely not low. Where do Taoists stay here? At this moment, a murky test was very erratic, and even some specific directions were difficult to hear, and the sound was very quiet. You go to hide inside the advanced cave house. If I don't tell you to come out, you must not come out. Hearing this, with a fearless voice, Wei Suo immediately turned his head to say this to Jiya, and at the same time the exchanged hiking crab Dharma shield was also taken out and handed to her. Jiya looked at Wei Suo, did not speak, but stood still without moving. You can rest assured that if you are an ordinary monk, I am not afraid. If we are difficult to deal with, I will certainly not fight hard with him somehow. Wei Suo immediately understood Jiya's intentions. While warm, he quickly explained, I have a hidden method. After you hide in the cave house, if he finds you and wants to do something with you, it just attracted his attention. I can take the opportunity. Sneak at him. The success rate is much greater than when both of us are inside. You have to be careful. After hearing Wei Suo say, Jiya finally nodded and swept into the cave. But after passing a few feet in, she turned her head and said such a sentence to Wei Suo. Wei Suo's body was clearly paused. After that, he quickly ran to a place about 60 feet away from this hole, put the invisible vest over him, and then he hid himself under a tree and immediately pulled out a lamp-like shape. Magic weapon, inspired. As Wei Suo's true Yuan permeated into it, this magic weapon also began to emit white mists, which filled his body. This magic weapon is a magic weapon named Mysterious Lamp that Wei Suo obtained from Dongqing II. The white mist ignited by this magic weapon permeates the dense white mist of this stingy sea, but it can't see anything strange at all. After inspiring this magic weapon, we saw that Wei Suo again took out the slave beast bag and released the heartworms, but did not let the heartworms go away, but only stayed not far from his side. Then he listened carefully with breathless breath, and then took the boss a dark thing from Nabeo's bag, but it was the fire demon dragon that was only left by Dongqing Ii's golden false pill. Head. After Wei Suo took away the fire demon skull, he had no time to check it. A closer look at this moment, Wei Suo's eyes flashed suddenly, frowning and groaning. The skull of the fire monster head is still black and very heavy. Under the weird power of the ancient monster body, the only head of the fire monster dragon has turned into a black crystal. The crystallization is average, no longer flesh and blood. Wei Suo turned this very huge and terrifying fire monster head skull, looking from the broken neck, it was also a solid mass, there is no trace of any demon at all. If there is any enlightenment, the buzzing sound is already over the island. Silently, Wei Suo immediately put the crystallized skull of the fire monster on hand back into the Nabeo capsule, and took the black blood-eating knife with the magic red light in his hand. Why don't you bother to see me if you don't answer me? At this moment, a dark purple brilliance, surrounded by 3 brilliances of green, red, and white, appeared in Wei Suo's sight. I saw the dark purple brilliance, actually a fatter, dark purple fat insect with a length of 1 foot. This fat bug, like a centipede on a round body, has 2 thin translucent wings on the back, but because it looks too fat, plus the skin looks soft, giving at first glance it feels like a fat pig flying in the air. This fat pig is flying around in the air like a worm, and the 3 colorful glory that surrounds are all finger-sized 3 colorful bugs. There are more than 30 pieces in total, and the back of this big flying pig above, it was a monk standing with a shawl. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 242. This monk with a disheveled hair looks about 50 years old. The average monk looks very clean and refreshing because of his aura, but this monk does not know what kind of exercises. The above is a kind of greasy, sloppy feeling. His face was also a bad-looking horse face, and at the first sight, Wei Suo immediately thought of the horse-faced monk who was killed by himself in the ground of King Fengaling, and Wende Omunde. It's just that this chaos-haired horse-faced monk's practice is much higher than that of the horse-faced monk, and Wei Suo's sigh of breath kept pressing down from above. Under the sweep of the hope gas technique, it is totally useless like failure. This horse-faced monk has small ball-shaped protrusions, looks like a knot, and does not seem to have any aura of ink-colored vest, which has the effect of preventing the exploration of such spells. The only thing that made Wei Suo a little more relaxed is that although the cultivator of this messy hair is definitely higher than Wei Suo, but he has not yet reached Jindan realm. Chang Feng, a real person, is still much worse. But just as he held his breath and prepared to see the monk's next move, the monk who had landed in the sky, facing him, turned suddenly, facing his hidden position. The dark purple fat insects that felt like flying pigs under his feet were clear at a glance. This dark purple big fat insect, with a flat face, the facial features huddled together, looks very funny. But what made Wei Suo's chill rise in the heart was that the dark purple monster's 2 squinting eyes were staring at his hidden position, and it gave people the same kind of messy hair as a monk. A sneering expression. Why, sneaking hiding there, do you want me to force you to come out, The monk's mouth made a yin and yang sound. Wei Suo's scalp was a little bit blown up, which was definitely not a bluff, but the real discovery of his hiding place, because the monk's consciousness was obviously covered in his position of 20 or 30 feet. It seems that because of the influence of the magic lamp, it is impossible to accurately determine his specific location. But with this sentence alone, it was absolutely impossible for him to remove the magic lamp and show himself. After his face changed slightly, Wei Suo said, "I don't know how to call this predecessor. It's not disdain to meet with the predecessor in the next, but in this stingy sea, the cultivation of the predecessor is much higher than that of the next. Some dare not meet seniors. You can't recognize who I am when you see this dragon kite. So, you are not a monk in these coastal cities." The monk Ranfa smiled deeply. Xiaxia indeed came from afar, not the monks in these coastal cities. Wei Suo suddenly felt awkward in his heart and became more vigilant. The messenger monk stroked his hair. "In this way, you can't recognize the monk of the corpse sect, but it's justifiable." Wei Suo groaned in his heart, but his tone remained calm and asked, "So, is the senior a monk of the corpse sect?" "Below is the monk of the Dragon Goo sect, but not the monk of the corpse section. Even if I am bold, I dare not pretend to be the monk of the sect of the Scorpion sect with 5 Jindan priests." Ranfa the monk smiled. "It's just that some people have enough courage to kill an elite disciple of the corpse sect in this stingy sea. The corpse sect issued a reward order, and it was just some means to come down, so come to this sting. Search the sea for this character who doesn't know where it is sacred and dare to kill the corpse section." "Someone dared to kill the monk of the corpse sect," Wei Suo suddenly exclaimed. His shocked voice was pretending to be too similar. If the old man in the green robe now thinks that the other party is very tall, afraid of being discovered, otherwise he must have been unable to praise him for pretending to be like this time. "Why, do you know nothing about it?" The monk Ranfa glanced blankly at Wei Suo's position. "But I want to confirm, you first remove your magic weapon, and show up. Let me see you last time. As long as I confirm that you have nothing to do with this matter, I will leave immediately." "This? Why, don't you want to bargain with me?" The monk in the air standing on the ugly fat insect named Dragon Kite suddenly sneered coldly. "Are I too polite to you before? Have you formed the illusion that you can bargain with me? Of course, you can also refuse, but I don't mind treating you as a monk who killed the corpse sect disciple." With a sneer, more than 33 color bugs lingering around Dragon Kite all flew in front of this monk, forming a bright 3-color light curtain in front of it. "Senior, wait a moment, this fog is my excitement with the array, and it takes a certain time to put away the array." After saying such a nonsense with his eyes open, Wei Suo quickly looked out of the Nabeo's pocket with an ugly face. It is not particularly eye-catching and has no head, but even if it has been dead for a long time, the flames of the body are very amazing monster bodies. The body of this monster is really the body of the 6th level middle level monster beast red demon that he got in the Midian Valley, that is comparable to the strength of the triple monk of the realm. After quickly placing the body of the red-winged flame demon on the branch under his feet, Wei Suo did not hesitate to take out the red-winged flame demon's demon and put it into the red-winged flame demon at the same time, his true element also directed towards the yellow ancient demon corpse that had been held in his hand. Just like last time, after nearly half of the real elements in Wei Suo's body were instantly and madly extracted, this yellow paper sign turned into ashes in his hands. A mysterious black rune of red brilliance rose up in the ashes, and suddenly hit the red-winged demon body under Wei Suo, and instantly turned into countless red silk, flowing into the whole body of the red-winged demon body. "Good. Very good. You are actually playing tricks in front of me. It seems that you are indeed the person I am looking for." And at this moment, the monk's eyes flashed in the air, and he had reacted abruptly. In the sneer, all the 3 colorful bugs in front of him turned into streamers and shot towards the direction of Wei Suo. More than 30 tricolor bugs, like more than 30 half-spell level magic weapons, shot out at the same time, and these more than 30 little bugs are evenly divided in the air, regardless of the spirit inspired by Weizhuo in the magic lamp in which direction the fog evades, it will face at least 3 or 4 tricolor bugs. And this is just a prelude. A crescent-shaped blue light blade about 3 feet long, suspended in front of him with the change of the monk's skill, and with the continuous flow of blue real elements, the brilliance on this crescent-shaped blue light blade is getting brighter and brighter, and it is obvious that the power contained in it is getting more and more full. This crescent-shaped blue light blade is obviously inspired by spells, but under the control of this monk, it turned out to be like a magic weapon, and it can be increased in power by focusing on the true Yuan, and it can be controlled. Beheaded at any time. Judging from the strong aura fluctuations of this monk when casting spells, this monk is a powerful monk with 4 levels of thought. But at this time, Wei Suo's face, but a hint of joy appeared. A fluffy black gas emanated from the body of Red Wing Flame Demon. The body of Qi Wing Flame Demon shrinks and shrivels like dehydration, and the whole demon melts and melts into its body, but its head, which is no longer there, is regrowing in a burst of black gas. It's done. When Wei Suo looked at the head of the fire demon dragon, he found that his demon pill had disappeared. Reminiscent of the ancient monster corpse that inspired the fire monster after the change, the original scars on the fire monster dragon seem to heal, and Wei Suo's heart has this ancient monster corpse relying on the power, a large part it is a demon from the demon beast. After all, for the monster, Yaodan is the place where most of the essence in the body is gathered. Because the monster that can pose a threat to the monks in the split period is the only red-winged flame demon, so it is only after the cruelty that Wei Wei simply tried this red-winged flame demon. Now after a try, it really confirmed his idea. As long as you use the demon pill, the physical body is damaged a little, this ancient demon corpse can still be used successfully. Roar. Just when the 4 tricolor worms had blasted in front of Wei Suo, as Wei Suo's true Yuan poured into it, the red-winged flame stood up fiercely, and a black liquid-like flame spewed out of his mouth. The heat of this flame turned out to be no less than the blaze fired by the red-winged flame demon against the enemy. Oh! Oi! The 4 tricolor worms had no resistance, so they were almost cooked and turned into 4 grilled sausages. The face of the monk with the messy hair on the back of Dragon Kite changed slightly, stretched out his hand, the crescent-shaped blue light blade that had stayed in front of it for a while, disappeared in front of him. Wei Suo's face suddenly changed, and a trace of joy in his eyes disappeared without a trace. The speed of this light blade was as fast as teleportation, just a flash, and he had no time to make any response. This light blade was already cut on the red-winged flame demon that was blocking him. Snapped. Just when Wei Suo hurriedly excited the black water lotus platform, the red-winged flame demon's chest was cut into a deep pit, and he was almost directly broken out. The blue light blade inspired by this monk turned out to be no less powerful than a true speed-level intermediate magic weapon. What made him look a little better was that although the red-winged flame demon was cut like this, the Emperor Envoy was not affected at all. Under a slight flash of glance, he saw his teeth clenched and decided what to look like. With a little reach, the red wings of the flame swept out fiercely. At the same time, he did not first activate the blood-eating knife, and it was holding Liu Yang Shenhuoka in his hand and inspiring it. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 243. I saw a group of black flames showing up from the white spirit fog, it was the red wings flame demon. A puffy black flame burst from its mouth and swept toward the chaotic monk. Yep. Seeing such a scene, the monk's complexion changed slightly, and immediately flicked his hand to the head of the flat-faced dragon kite under him. This flat-faced monster with facial features that seemed to be huddled together suddenly had a big mouth, and a deep purple thick liquid spewed out from it. The dark purple viscous liquid immediately collided with the black flames erupted from the red wings flame demon, and for a time, it showed a stalemate, and its power was quite like it. At this time, Wei Suo had already fired the 6 sun god fire fork. As the flames of the 6 groups of sun rose in the white spirit fog, a golden fire light directed at the chaotic monk above the dragon kite. At the same time, dozens of blue lights also flowed out of the white mist behind the monk's side. It was the Gangwind blue sword condensed by the Qing Gang fan. Jia also shot. The face of the chaotic hair monk, who was in front and back, changed slightly. It turns out that it is not a person, but do you think that you will be my opponent based on the two of you? The monk sneered coldly for the monk's disdain, and a yellow hill-shaped strange magic weapon appeared in his hand. With the attention of its true element, this yellow hill, which is only 1 foot high, turned out to emit yellow gas similar to Weizhou's Golden Gate Stonehenge, forming a body outside him and the dragon kite under him. An earthy giant cocoon. Puff puff puff, there was a burst of noise, and the golden firelight and the strips of blue light lost on this chrysanthemum cocoon, but they couldn't get in. And this earthy giant cocoon actually did not hinder the deep purple mucus from the dragon kite underneath. The spitting purple mucus still spit out from the giant cocoon. Resisted the black fire erupted from the red-winged flame demon. Immediately afterwards, a bluish blue light emerged from the giant earthy yellow cocoon, a blue crescent-shaped light blade. Seeing this scene, Wei Suo's heart suddenly became cold. Regardless of whether it is useful or useless, a shock of consciousness pierced into the giant earthy cocoon. Humph! A disdainful sneer. A large piece of blue light blade came out of the giant yellow cocoon without stopping, and just disappeared in a flash. Kappa. Almost at the same time, Wei Suo and Jia were in the direction of a burst of popping noise. The impact of Wei Suo's consciousness, indeed, has no influence on this powerful monk with 4 levels of thought. Sneaky, come and talk to me. Then, with the sneer of the monk's disdain, countless fist-sized red fireballs emerged out of nowhere. Even the white mist within the range of 60 to 70 feet was scattered away, making all the surrounding scenery clearly visible. I saw that Jia, who had a pale face, was standing at the entrance of the temporary cave house. The front face of her had just received the hiking crab shield, which was covered with at least 5 or 6 thin cracks. On the other side, Wei Suo has already received the magic lamp and is in a package of 4 black water lilies. He is looking at the earthy giant cocoon with a gloomy face. Pieces of wind blade appeared. It seems that my luck is really good. The monk of random hair does not seem to be in a hurry to continue to work, but instead removes the giant yellow cocoon and sniffs, as if almost smelling Wei Weizhou. The faint smell was not general. But you really don't know the corpse sect, or are you really brave enough to kill the corpse sect disciples? However, Wei Suo did not even care about this monk, but took out a dark black streamer on his own. He didn't believe that this messy monk really wanted to chat with him. The black fire spurting from the red-winged flame demon has already been put down by the saliva sprayed by the dragon kite. Obviously, the reason why the monk of this messy hair poses is to talk with Wei Suo. The look of chatting is actually just waiting for his dragon kite to slowly consume the power of red-winged flame demon. Now the black long streamer was obtained by Wei Suo from the corpse disciple Qi Ziyu. It seems that the power is very good, but he has not tried it yet. Anyway, things have been exposed at this moment, and Wei Suo has no scruples. Simply take it out and try it out. I saw the black long streamer that was originally 2 feet long. Under Wei Suo's real attention, it kept growing in size and became a long foot, standing in front of Wei Suo. A murky black wind roared out of the streamer, and the sound was terrifying. There was a disdainful expression on the face of the monk, and a look of leisurely self-satisfaction after the death of the red-winged flame demon. He did not fight back, but only once again inspired the yellow hill-like magic weapon in his hand and wrapped himself in the earth yellow inside the cocoon. Puff puff. The roaring roar, the seemingly terrifying black wind impacted on the giant earthy cocoon, could not be shaken at all. Wei Suo immediately put away the black streamer without expression. The power of the black streamer is probably between the lower-level magic weapon of the Spirit Order and the middle-level magic weapon of the Spirit Order, and unlike his imagination, it is only a pure attacking magic weapon, not a magic weapon of integration of power and defense. After the black streamer was put away, Wei Suo took out the white bone sword with many flame-like runes on it without any pause and excited it. Boneless. What Wei Suo did not expect was that the magic weapon, which looked like a bone sword, shrank suddenly after being excited, and turned into a candle-like pale flame. Without the slightest heat, it would absorb the surrounding. The heat is average, and the surrounding temperature is instantly reduced by a few degrees. While being suspicious, I only listened to the monk sneering, "If you can get more than 36 bones cold, I will turn around and run away." Such a bones cold also come out, it is a laugh. However, this female nun looks like I have never seen it before. After I kill you, I will be more pitiful. Immediately afterwards, the chaotic monk added such a sentence. It seems that Jiya's face is indeed a bit rosy, and when the normal male practitioner sees it, he can't help but be tempted. Wei Suo's heart moved slightly. Because he had just inspired the boneless cold fire of the shape of this stock bone sword, he had the feeling that this boneless cold fire was somewhat between his complete set of shields and the flag of the Golden Gate Stonehenge. And listening to the tone of the monk, this kind of magic weapon really seems to be a magic weapon that can be superimposed and used in sets. Although the power of this boneless fire is not in the eyes of the monk, but Wei Suo certainly has the inferior order. If 36 powers can be added together with some formation power, how much power will there be? It seems that the strength of this corpse sect is not really big. At this moment, the sound of Zi seemed like a piece of frozen lard was thrown into a red-hot iron pan. I saw that the black fire spurted by the red wings flame demon was caused by the deep purple mucus from the dragon kite. After being pressed down completely, the body was also poured into a mass of dark purple mucus. The dark purple slime turned out to be amazingly corrosive, but in a short time, the red wing flame demon was corroded so badly that it turned into a ball of black oil. Go to die. The monk of random hair also seems impatient at the moment. Wei Suo regards him as a test article, one by one to test the magic weapon. With the icy cold drink, a piece of blue light blade kept flashing out of the earthy yellow cocoon. Under the flash, the dense light blade flashed in front of Wei Suo from time to time. Seeing this scene, Jiya's face was white, without any trace of blood, and desperately inspired the Qinggang fan in her hand. She was very aware of the power of these blue light blades. But the monk of random hair didn't care about her at all, just inspiring those blue light blades toward Wei Suo. And the blue longsword inspired by her blue gang fan couldn't break the earthy cocoon at all. Pap. 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 Pieces of blue light blades impacted on the 4 black lotus petals outside Wei Suo's body. Almost at the moment of contact, the 4 black lotus petals shivered violently. Suddenly Wei Suo was beaten with no effort to fight back, with a look of panic. What? A scream came out of his mouth, and I saw a blue light blade blasting through the gap between the 2 lotus petals, chopped on Wei Suo's chest, and a puff of blood. Wei saw. Jiya's body also shivered violently, screaming in silence. Although there is a layer of protection for Xuanhuan Beiyi outside Wei Suo's body, this blue light blade still cuts Xuanhuan Beiyi's body on Wei Zhuo's body and spins into Wei Zhuo's body. On his chest, a terrifying wound deep inside broke out. Wei Suo was silent, falling down from the air. Hey! A smirk with a monk's satisfaction. This kind of wound is obviously dying. Even if it is not killed immediately, it is impossible to stimulate any spells and magic weapons, and there is no power to fight back. Looking at Wei Suo's silence, he fell from the air, and the monk withdrew even the earthy yellow cocoon. He turned to look at Jiya, and he smiled evilly. I said, "Beauty, you surrender yourself, do you still want me to capture you?" Jiya's brain was blank. She couldn't believe that the man who talked to the Jindan monk and several monks who were all talking and laughing, and escaped safely, the one who took her to escape when the teleportation circle collapsed, the one who felt that all thoughts were grey at that time, Han Weiwei's people were rescued. In her heart, like a mountain, she can stand in front of her, people who can rely on, and, people who have seen her white jade body, even this is dead. She is unbelievable. However, what made her cover her mouth incredulously, and her tears all came out, was that she saw that behind the monk who was grinning against her evil smile, she had already dead and dropped way. Suo, but stopped in the air like a ghost, issued a black knife.